Everybody to the Town of Queens Town Board meeting. If you'll join me for the pledge of this meeting.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
The record reflect all members are present. Everyone got a copy of the February 26th minutes. Yeah. A chance to review them. I'd like to make a motion to enter them into the record. All 50 pages of them.
Well,
Yeah.
25 of them weren't your fault.
You did a great job on the minutes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are accepted. Okay, right into old business.
No public announcements tonight?
No.
Thanks, Mike. I'm sure that was drowning out the sound.
So in old business, we have transportation terminals owner occupied contractor yard definition. Just for a quick brief overview, that was local law number 9 of 2020 that defined the transfer station and transportation terminals. The supervisor at the time said that this would allow for transfer stations in the industrial zone only. Based on a short secret form, the town issued a negative declaration. And local law 9 defined transportation terminal as a railway terminal, freight station, container terminal or yard, multipurpose cargo terminal, port, transfer station, or any similar receiving point. Had local law number 9 intended this definition, it would have required a full environmental assessment form. Subsequently, in 2023, an application was submitted for the industrial park, an industrial project, that proposed the use of the RA zone land. This proposed industrial project relied on the 2020 definition of transportation terminal, arguing that the definition included accessory uses in the RA zone. The town proposes a definition of owner-occupied contractor yard to protect existing businesses in the hollow and surrounding areas. And I am curious if the board feels any necessary edits are needed to move forward on that definition. I had sent out an email on the 18th of February to both the town board and the planning boards, discussing that our office had not received any additional comments or concerns from members of the public regarding these documents that I had sent out and posted publicly. And moving forward, we wanted to make sure that both boards have the opportunity to raise any remaining questions, comments, or recommendations that need to be addressed. I followed that up on the 24th of February to see if there was anything that needed to be addressed. I got a reply from the PBZBA chairperson, Mr. Boomer, that the Zoning and Planning Board does not believe we need any further joint meetings at this time, and also they do not have any outstanding issues that they feel should be addressed. So I'd just like to ask the board if they have reviewed the owner-occupied contractor yard as it's defined and have any comments, edits that need to be made.
So I think one of the things that we talked about during our joint meeting in the definition, and it may not have been in the joint meeting, it might have been in another meeting, I don't recall, but the owner of such business activity must reside on the premises. I think that either needs to be removed or taken out, removed and taken out is the same thing, but removed or edited in some manner. Because I don't know that we should have to restrict that the owner reside on the premise. You know, if somebody owns vacant land and they want to, have a owner-occupied contractor yard, then, it should be permitted. The other thing we have to, as a board, figure out is if we're going to go forward with the minimum lot size. Because currently, as it's drafted, there's a blank. And I know that we as a board, in consultation with our town attorney, he left that blank for us to kind of talk about and figure out if we should, put that into. And I do think that there should be some sort of minimum lot size in order to have this owner-operated contractor yard. I don't know what that minimum should be at this point in time, but.
Yeah, it was the joint meeting that we had that issue with the owner of the activity must reside in the premises. I remember that. I think it sort of covers. I mean, as the public had come in and talked to us about their concerns about getting rid of, in my opinion, a sort of a dangerous duplication of the industrial transportation terminal. I tried to see the people, and it's a small town. We know a lot of people in town. You try to look at it and sort of see, okay, will taking away the current definition, will the owner-operated contractor yard, will that person be qualified under this? And as I was thinking about it, I really don't think of anybody who would not benefit the same, if not more, from the owner-operated contractor yard. Again, I think between that and the redefinition to the agricultural use, I think it even broadens for the common person in the town of Queens the uses that they can do outside of just agricultural production.
Steve, regarding your question, isn't there a minimum if you have a house on the land?
1.87 acres.
So it's 80,000 square feet. Like if you want to build a house on a vacant parcel, the code right now is 80,000 square feet, which to Ms. Grogan's
So
point.
what I'm saying, if they live there, then it would have to meet that standard, right?
Well, it depends. You don't necessarily have to have a building to operate something. You could have containers. You could have.
But I'm saying if you live on that property with your business, you have to have.
I mean, you still have to meet code.
And you have to meet the size of the lot too.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think what we talked about is that we did envision that one of these business owners could potentially carve out the piece that the business operates out of just for liability purposes or whatever other reason. And so that caused us to rethink, well, maybe they don't need to actually reside on that parcel in particular. You have
Right.
to sort of figure out how to.
And I think that can be said too. I mean, if a farmer, contractor, whatever has, let's say that 1.87 parcel, and they want to store tractors there, are they not going to be able to now because we're going to limit the size? And I think the other important piece too, this is going to trigger that it's going to have to go to the planning board anyway. So
Yeah, I mean.
So they're going to have to explain what the use is for. I just hate to limit the size. If there's someone out here who has a 2-acre lot that's vacant and they're not using it for anything and they want to use it for something, and now if we put that acreage in there and limit it, that just takes that away.
What I didn't know is, and I'm from out of town, so are there existing lots within the RA zone that are maybe not conforming? And so there could be a cluster of houses in the RA zone. Maybe they're on half-acre lots, 3/4 acre lots. They're perfectly legitimate because they pre-existed your current zoning standards and your current lot size requirements. Maybe in that cluster of 4 or 5 or half dozen homes in the RA zone, you wouldn't necessarily want a contractor yard. And so I think that's what was in my mind when I thought, maybe we want a threshold of some sort.
So I guess if we put our minimum lot in now, which is required to build on or do anything with of that 1.87, that would cover it without affecting anybody.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So I guess if we did, because that is the minimum to build now. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but.
I think it makes sense.
It's reasonable, yeah.
But I do agree that the owner of such business activity must reside on the premise should be removed, because there are many property owners that their primary residential land is not attached to other parcels that they own. So that would not allow them to. So I would like that removed.
does the board, and I'm just trying to drill down to what you want, do you want any type of nexus? If, if it's a contractor who, owns the 2 acres here, operates a business out of there, but, or wants to operate a business out of there, but resides in, East Greenbush, is that what you want, or do you want them, again, we're not gonna, we don't wanna say on the parcel, we probably don't even wanna say adjacent, right, because you could see where they might have multiple parcels. But do you want any type of nexus or
Primary
none?
residents in the town.
Yeah, that's right, maybe it's a, permanent residence in the town, or something along those lines.
I don't know. I mean, what
I
are
didn't think
the
of
cons of limiting or restricting, that? So if we make it so that you have to have a residence in the town,
or a business or whatever.
yeah.
I mean, as I read the prior comprehensive plans, they didn't necessarily want to encourage a lot of commercial development in the RE zone, right? I think it was generally considered to be residential and agricultural. So we're trying to, again, this is just my perspective, but we're trying to accommodate, account for, and protect sort of the existing businesses and businesses of those types that are here. But you wouldn't, I don't know if you would want someone from out of town, for example, to just buy a 2 acre lot in the RA zone with no connection to the town of Queens and put in a contractor yard.
I don't know if I would want to limit that, and I'm gonna give an example, only
too.
because we're in an agricultural area. Now, where I live out there, I have friends that hay other people's land from outside. New Scotland is right next door, Bethlehem is right next door. So if we limit that to just Queens, we could be hurting some of our, neighboring farms and stuff. And they do hay other people's field, and if they wanted to store equipment or something, they don't live in the town, they can't do that now?
But
So-
that's not commercial, right?
That's agricultural, but I get your point. Yeah, I get it.
Sure.
So, but we did have the issue, and I don't remember his name, and I don't remember his business name, but the property on 144. And he brought that pile of dirt.
Over
Remember?
by Malfris.
Yeah. Remember? You went on a site visit with me when you were the alternate on that board.
It's just on the north side of the.
He's from Long Island,
Right.
and he brought up that dirt and he dumped it there. So here's somebody who bought property in an RA zone that does not live here.
Right.
That property is now up for sale. There's still that big pile of dirt there.
Like Imperioli or.
But I guess I'm not understanding, so what? It's dirt. I mean, but if
Wow.
you do that, you don't want but like Mr. Riley said, you don't want, dirt is dirt, but you don't want that
That's more-
person to necessarily come in and put a small commercial yard in, on that area either. I mean, dirt is one thing, but what if
This
you went?
wasn't just dirt. I
Oh,
mean, and I don't want to go into specifics right now.
Well, we have unique businesses. We have roll-offs, which if
I'll
it's
chat
for
more
people
after
to
the
put it
meeting.
there
Oh, okay.
because they're bringing a business or something. Do
So
we want to shut people off from bringing businesses within the town?
sorry,
No, go ahead.
no, just, so while initially I'm like, a nexus? I don't know that I personally think that there's a nexus, but then I think about
That case.
this situation that we dealt with as a town, and I'm like, maybe there is
Something to be said for it.
thought
yeah.
to consider about,
Yeah.
having someone who's not currently in the town. I don't know. Again,
I think we could think about that.
Yeah, it makes sense for Michael and I, we can try and propose some language for board consideration that maybe articulates some type of a nexus without making it, try and find that balance, right, of not making it too tight, but not leaving it wide open so that somebody from Long Island could just, operate commercial enterprises out of your RA zone without any real tie to the town.
I think it's that fine line between what Trish said with, not trying to discourage anybody, but at the same time, you don't want to be taken advantage either.
yeah.
Okay. And then it sounds like you're potentially interested in that definition. Do you want us to send you that back? Initially we had sort of a proposed local law. Issues were raised about the need to address this other use. We've drafted an initial proposal for a definition, and now I think we want to recirculate that. Do you want that in sort of the form of this is what a proposed local law could look like, and then you can continue to drill down on those definitions. I just want to be sure we understand what deliverable you want.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good starting point.
Sure.
I think so. I think
It's all just a
Yeah.
review.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we have to definitely fine tune this, and
Yeah.
that would get us there.
Because, path forward, even when we as a board agree on a draft local law, we still have to then send it to the Planning Zoning Board of Appeals for them to give us a recommendation. Then we have to schedule a public hearing.
Correct. And send it to Albany County. I mean, there's a whole
And
series
adjacent
of,
properties, yeah,
maybe the adjacent towns, right?
yeah,
There's-
adjacent towns.
Okay,
That makes sense.
good. Made some progress. Truck traffic discussion. Let's see here. That's just basically an update from supervisor's office. We have had discussions with Amrise and DEC. We are scheduling a meeting with Heidelberg. The positions seem to be getting a bit tighter. We're tightening up exactly what's going on with truck traffic. It can be a bit more clear. We're going to schedule site visits with our code enforcement officer, I think the week of the 23rd, and also with our chief sewer operator when he gets back, also on the 23rd, but we'll probably plan that for April, the first week in April, unless we decide to do it all at once, but they're two big projects. But progress is being made. That's the update on truck traffic. If there's any questions moving forward?
I guess I have a question. What does the sewer operator have to do with the truck traffic issue, or are we just kind of joint trying to figure out the sewer issues with the industry?
Yeah, we need to know, the flow that's coming out of there. There's been multiple sewer plant issues.
So you're kind of working on two issues there. You're working on
Yeah,
truck traffic and also the sewer.
Sort of, and the whole site plan concept,
Right.
just trying to get a handle on what's there so that the planning board knows going forward.
Right, but that has something to do with the sewer, so we're looking at the sewer.
Other than that, they generate, right,
Yeah.
we're looking at both.
So in the scheduling of a site visit with the building inspector, what is the focus and the purpose of that going to be?
just to identify the properties there, the tenants. We're also going to be, there's a meeting between Mr. Chmielewski and our assessor Dawn DeRose, myself, and our legal team to get a handle on assessment rolls, what we have currently in our documentation in the town, so that when we go there, we're a bit more informed, because as of now, we're not quite sure just from the documents that we have.
And this is for the whole industrial zone.
Yeah.
Not just the Queens Industrial Park.
No,
Is that what you're insinuating?
all industrial zone properties. What I had suggested is start with Dawn, the assessor, who could identify all industrial zone properties. A lot of them, I think she'll be able to say, it's a single lot, there's a single owner, there's a single business operating out of there, and you'll just be able to fill in those blanks pretty quickly, and then use that information to then identify, are there parcels that are maybe larger, that are some type of an industrial park, or some type of parcel that has multiple businesses operating out of it, and that would be the one that then, or the types of sites that might then require a site visit to just go and say, okay, what's here? And what do we have records of yet, and what do we not?
Okay, now, I just wanted to clarify that it was the whole industrial
Absolutely.
zone, not just the industrial park.
They may not visit every parcel because they're going to try and narrow down what they already know just based on your records. But the goal is to just come up with an inventory of, these are your industrial parcels, these are the uses, these are those principal uses that may or may not have been before the planning board. I think it would be helpful for Mr. Chmielewski also to indicate for any of those parcels, these are the reviews that have already existed, happened just from his records, just so that you can identify what's there.
But to be clear, I think the discussion on Tuesday during our workshop was that Mr. Shimeleski would kind of take on the initial project to establish a list of businesses and formulate a list of what their uses are, correct?
Yes, and we had a discussion about whether Attorney Kennery would be there, and I talked to our attorney about that, and he probably would have valuable insights and a valid reason for being there. If we were there 2 or 3 hours, I think it would be probably worth the expense. That we would be able to communicate with him immediately as we were on site.
I was simply going to confer with Dawn and Jason and talk about the types of information I think they probably already have, how to come up with that initial list. When it comes time for a site visit, I do see value in Mr. Kennery being there if he can, just because I think he may have a sense of, oh, this is the type of thing that maybe the planning board would want to know in conjunction with some future application. I also suggested that maybe you want to have the planning board chair participate too, I think that's if it's Jason, the supervisor, the planning board chair, planning board attorney, maybe sewer, just because there are components of that maybe we want to look at separately. That's who I think that's who I would suggest you would then send out to do some type of a site visit or meet with the owners.
But do you agree that our starting point should be try to obtain what's there first?
Correct. Because I think you want to try and narrow that. You want to try and narrow that.
Right.
That
Okay.
list down.
I just thought we were scheduling this site visit before we were going to try to obtain this list and get information. I thought we were jumping right into having Jason and them go down without doing some of the homework and legwork first.
The homework meeting is the 16th. That's Monday.
Okay, so
And presumably, if we meet on Monday and then Dawn and Jason aren't able to compile enough before the 23rd, maybe that gets pushed out to
Right.
some other date.
And I haven't even, that's not nailed down the 23rd. It's just kind of preliminary. We want to get it done either the penultimate or the last week in March, and then in April, because we want to keep it moving.
And Mr. Riley, you're going to participate in that?
Not in the site visits. I was just going to.
But you're going to participate in this initial meeting on March 16th?
I was going to talk to Jason and Dawn about these are the types of things I think you probably can get from your existing records. These, if you have a spreadsheet, this is maybe the information that you'd want to put on there, and then that's it. And I think Dawn and Jason can pull most of that together.
Okay, so this would be like a kickoff meeting?
Yeah, half
Essentially.
5 minutes,
Yeah.
an hour maybe, but
on the 16th.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Before we go into new business, just since we were talking about transportation terminals and owner-occupied contractor yard definitions, we do have the other definition that was provided to us, the agricultural event center definition. I'd like to keep that on our radar. I'd like to keep pushing, that we come up with.
That was on the email from the 18th of February.
Yeah.
To see if anybody, because there's some blanks in there too that we want
Correct.
to discuss.
Yeah. So I would just like for it to continue to be on the agenda for our meetings until we've kind
Under
of
old business.
until we've come to some sort of conclusion.
Is that anything you want a proposed local law on at this point, or not yet?
And did we find anything that we wanted to change or add or subtract on that?
Just one observation, Michael and I had, is maybe we want to call it more of a rural event space rather than agricultural event space, because I think when we interact with the folks at Ag and Markets, they really talk about the agritourism or that type of thing. They're really active farms. And there may be folks who want to have that type of a venue, but don't necessarily have an active farm, like I think of the Stantons or the Tinnikes out in New Scotland. But they still have the space, they've got the structures where they could do it. So we thought maybe you change the definition a little bit. You certainly change the name.
Well, that's
I don't know that I would want it restricted to be an active farm.
Right, that's why I thought, we call it like rural event space rather than agricultural
Right,
event space.
because Ags and Markets is very strict
It's
on-
pretty particular.
Right, what constitutes a working farm and how much income you have to bring in. That's why, when I reached out to Mr. Kehoe, it's very specific on who can have these banquets, events, or whatever, when it falls to ags and markets.
I think we're envisioning something broader than that. At least that's my takeaway so far.
Well, and this is our second presentation with people wanting to do events on residential land, because we have Magic Forest Farm.
Correct.
I don't know what their revenue is or what their full functioning business is. But when you compare to Stanton's and Indian Ladder Farms, I think they're completely different. You know, they don't fall in the same scope and sequence at all. So, yeah, it's a thought for sure.
I think it's tough to try to, again, with any local law or anything like this, it's tough to try to incorporate certain people, but not have unintended consequences. Not have unintended consequences for everybody, right? So I think there's a fine line there, but we have to really figure out how
I'm good, thank you.
how we want to go about that. So I don't think we're to the point yet where we're going to have. That's just my opinion. I don't know what everybody else feels. Maybe some more discussion and.
Yeah, I think we're a ways away from that, getting there, But if you want it on old business so that
Yeah.
it doesn't fall under the radar, I'm okay with that.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't think that we're a ways away, but
Yeah, this is pretty broad, right? I mean, rural event center, this a lot of room to move in here. Of what, except there's a blank for acreage and distance from public roadway.
right.
Pretty close.
I would think so.
But we'd have to narrow that part down first, right? Before we.
And again, I had in my mind the assumption that there are existing sort of clusters of homes throughout the RA zone where maybe if all they did was own a half acre or 3/4 acre or even an acre, that might not be sufficient for this type of
Yeah.
use.
I agree. So that's something we have to talk about and harp on how we want to. What are the parameters of those two specifications, right?
Yeah, I think we're pretty close.
But after we get that, then I think we're getting there. We're getting in the right direction. Keep it on the radar. Keep talking, emailing.
Yeah. Okay, and for new business, I just had the Boys and Girls Club on here because I wanted to let the board know that we are working. We had a meeting with the CEO of Boys and Girls Club of Capital Area and a board member to discuss a Boys and Girls Club because I think it's important to strengthen our community. After school projects, we could really, really work together with a lot of the existing programs that we have. We could partner with RCS for after-school studies. Sports Association has an interest with physical education recreation programs. Innovation Station would be perfect with STEAM. So we could work in conjunction with them. RCS CBA would be great for career and workforce. We actually been paying within our budget, I think this is $28,000 for the youth employment. That's a pool of kids that really want to continue working with the community. Boys and Girls Club would run it. This is in very nascent stages of discussion, but there are a lot of things here that we could pull together. A food insecurity space, and we do have existing buildings. And there are some rental opportunities because there are some buildings in our town and village that are being renovated. So I just wanted to put it on your radar that we are having these discussions to see. We're at the feasibility stage right now to see if this is even possible, what it's going to look like, how much it would cost. We had estimated somewhere in between $150,000 and $350,000, and the CEO and we're pretty much. That's exactly where it would fall in, right around the $200,000, $300,000 area, depending. So we had a really good conversation, and I think that this is important for the town. Especially in light of the fact that Gerallen Park bathrooms, the brand new ones, were vandalized by juveniles, and it was kind of disturbing. I learned about it the day that it happened, and I stopped by on my way home, and there was some sort of a pellet gun that shot the mirror out, and it must have ricocheted or something because there were really really disturbing, deep, dark droplets of blood on the ground. So I don't know what happened, but the chief, we made some arrests because the cameras are there, and they were picked up. They had dirt bikes, but a pickup truck came to get them. I don't know how seriously injured whoever was injured was, but Mike Ferrero went the next day and changed the locks because they damaged both locks too. So I really think that we have to concentrate on getting a program for our kids. So there's an outlet for mentorship and education, and just support in general. So we're working on that. Just wanted to bring it to your attention.
Thank you.
All right, that goes right to resolutions. So we're keeping our workshop the same. We're not doing this resolution, right?
Right, so we can that.
So,
Okay, good.
the workshop will continue to be the first Tuesday of every month.
First Tuesday of every month. But at 6, not at 5. That was just for the audit, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Trish, if you want to pick us up with the resolution.
I, Councilmember Grogan, offer the following resolution and move its adoption. Whereas the Town of Queens Police Department, the department continues to actively recruit qualified police officers to serve the residents of the Town of Queens, and whereas there exists a need for additional part-time police officers in the department in order for the department to maintain its high standard for public safety and for the safety of its officers, and whereas a qualified candidate, Nicholas W. George, is desirous of a part-time employment as a police officer with the department, and whereas the Town of Queens Police Chief is desirous of hiring an additional part-time police officer and recommends the hiring of Nicholas W. George. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Queens does hereby authorize the police chief to hire Nicholas W. George as a part-time police officer with the Town of Queens Police Department at an hourly rate of $31.60 per hour, effective as of February 26, 2026.
I'll second it.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I, Councilmember Stott, offer the following resolution with its adoption. Whereas the Town of Queens Police Department continues to actively recruit qualified police officers to serve the residents of the Town of Queens, and whereas there exists a need for additional part-time officers in the department in order for the department to maintain its high standard of public safety and for the safety of its officers, and whereas a qualified candidate, Ryan J. Germani, is desirous of part-time employment as a police officer with the department, and whereas the Town of Queens Police Chief is desirous of hiring an additional part-time police officer and recommends hiring of Ryan J. Germani. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Queens does hereby authorize the police chief to hire Ryan J. Germani as a part-time police officer with the Town of Queens Police Department at an hourly rate of $30.47 per hour, effective as of March 9th, 2026.
Second discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Why the difference in
Okay.
pay?
Years of experience for the contract.
I Supervisor Donnelly offer the following resolution and move its adoption. Whereas the Town of Queens Highway Superintendent Daniel D. Baker delivered a letter of resignation to the Town Board of the Town of Queens on February 12th, 2026, with an effective date of February 27th, 2026, and whereas as a result of Superintendent Baker's resignation, a vacancy now exists for the Office of Highway Superintendent. And whereas we left this blank, as we have 2 candidates, has expressed an interest in being appointed to the Office of Highway Superintendent and meets or exceeds the qualification requirements for said position. Therefore, be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Queens may hereby appoint as Town Queens Highway Superintendent until December 31st in the year in which the town holds the next regular election, during which the office may be filled. And be it further resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Queens thanks Superintendent Baker for his years of service and dedication to the Town of Queens. So, for discussion, we have 2 candidates that are here tonight, and it is the position of my office that we have to fill this, as it's been empty for 2 weeks, and my discussions with the Highway Department, my lengthy discussions with them show that a need for experienced superintendent needs to be placed as soon as possible due to the fact that there is a resignation on April 10th by Connor Liscombe. He'll be leaving, and then the deputy superintendent is scheduled for surgery on the 15th of April, so 2 positions will be empty. And in order to maintain continuity of governance, it's this office's opinion that we move forward with this as soon as possible so that the appointee has 4 weeks to come up to speed while the deputy is still there. And for that, saying that, I am recommending that George LaMountain be appointed as the superintendent of the highways.
And you're gonna get an earful from me right now. Because as a board member sitting on this board, at Tuesday's workshop, all 4 of us agreed that we were not putting this forward. All 4 of us agreed. So I'm not quite sure how this got snuck in. That's number 1. Number 2, via email, via text messages, and via in-person conversations, I asked to post this. Mr. Schmidt supported it. In the back room, we all discussed it. A notice of vacancy was posted online. I then sent another email asking about the posting. Why aren't we doing a posting? Why doesn't the posting say what the salary is, what the end date is to respond to the posting, who to respond to? That's normally how postings work. On Tuesday, you stated to me that you didn't want it posted, and you don't even know what to put in it. Yesterday, I think, or maybe Tuesday night, I don't know, I sent a posting that could be copied and pasted, and it still hasn't been done. And it's not that I'm against the 2 people. We did not give the employees of this town who currently work for sewer or highway a fair shake at possibly applying. That's my thoughts and opinions on that.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I mean, I concur with Ms. Grogan's thoughts. You know, she did request that it be posted. We did talk about it being posted. You know, it should have been posted, and it should have been posted more than just a notice of vacancy on the website. With that being said, you know, we have 2 interested candidates. One has 30 years of experience and hasn't worked for the town or the department in 4+ years. And then we have someone who has, you know, 2 years of experience, but who has operated in that position, in that department, day to day for the last 2 years. In my book, you know, experience, you know, is good, but it's not the end all be all. When I was asked to be the chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals, when Mr. Marsh passed away, I had 2 years of experience. Now, I understand some people will say, well, that's very different. Running a highway garage versus running a Zoning Board of Appeals is very different, but the point is the same. Like, I was able to figure out what needed to be done, and I became the chairman after only 2 years of experience, and I continued my chairmanship through the entire tenure of my Zoning Board of Appeals. I just, you know, I don't think we've done our due diligence as a town board by not posting it and not conducting interviews. Yes, we've all had discussions with Mr. LaMountain and Mr. Williams. Or I think we all have. I shouldn't say that.
Correct, I have not.
Okay.
You haven't?
I have not, and I stated that in the email that I sent to you yesterday. The reason I have not reached out to Mr. Williams is because I was still waiting for you to post the posting so that if there were other people out there that wanted to apply, we could wait and get our pool. So that is why I have not.
And I think it's very different from each individual council person to have discussions with the interested candidates than if we were to have groups of 2 actually have an interview process. I think the information will be presented differently. I think the responses will be differently. You know, they will come to us differently. So I personally think that this resolution is still premature based upon the discussion that we had at Tuesday's meeting, workshop meeting, and that we haven't conducted interviews. And I think interviews are important.
So I'm happy to hear all this. You know, my opinion is, sure, interviews are fine. We've had, just 4 months ago, we had an election, and both parties had all the interested candidates. And I don't know about the dynamics of both parties, but I would assume there weren't tons of people asking to run for highway superintendent. If I had to guess, I would say there's two. There's Dan and George. And that election only happened 4 months ago. And to be honest, the results were Mr. LeMountain lost by 28 votes. And coupled with the fact that he has 30 years experience, I've talked to him, and, I think one of the things that that department really needs is, the guys want upward mobility. They want to be trained. They want, trust between, a leader and the workers. And I think Mr. LeMountain, from my experience talking with him, he said he wants that. He encourages that. He wants to lift everybody up. And again, nothing against Mr. Williams. I've had conversations with him in certain meetings, and he did send us a good informational piece via text or email. But again, I think 30 years experience versus 2 years experience is key. And coupled with that is the fact that the people of the town, it was pretty much a 50-50 split. I mean, it could have went either way. So it's what the people chose essentially 4 months ago. Couple that with experience, and to be honest, I think we all looked in the department first. We all were looking to say, does the deputy want to step up and take this because he's qualified and he ran and has been underneath Dan for a while now, and he refused. He refuted. So I think there's a sort of an urgency, especially with Mr. Ferrero going into surgery and taking several weeks off. You need to get some stability in that department, and I can understand posting it, and we did post it sort of internally or informally, but you would have thought it's no secret that Dan left, and it's no secret that there's an opening. If anybody wanted that job, they would have came up and said, hey, I'm still interested, or I am interested, just like Mr. Williams and Mr. LeMountain did. So we could keep posting it, but I think you're going to get the same two gentlemen, and overall, my opinion would be, based on everything I know, is Mr. LeMountain. He has the experience.
But we haven't posted it. And
it's been on the website
For 2 weeks.
But it's not even a posting. It's an announcement that there's a vacancy. It doesn't say to apply within. It doesn't have any information. It literally is an announcement of the vacancy. And to go back to your thought as far as I'm really getting fed up with hearing, well, they ran, and because they ran, because I would be willing to bet my entire life savings that if Mr. Donnelly resigned and we said, well, George McHugh ran, let's put him on, you'd 100% be against it. So I don't necessarily think just because someone ran, and people may not want to run, which is why they wouldn't go for it. But if we post it, they may apply for it because they don't have to run. And then if they get the opportunity to do the job, they enjoy it, they like it, then they may take the risk in running. Because every single one of us out here, running a campaign was not my favorite thing to do. So it's a risk-taking thing. So no, not everybody's going to do that. So if we offer them the chance to try this job, they like it. But we haven't even offered them the chance. We haven't even put the posting out there. So I can't agree. And I really want to go back to my question. Why on Tuesday did the four of us agree not to put this forward, and then it was snuck in here tonight?
The framing that it was snuck in is erroneous and misleading because you were aware of it. The reason why it came back in is because I spoke with Mr. LeMountain in my office, because during our workshop, there was a framing around the fact that Mr. LeMountain was going to go into the highway department and fire everybody and fire Mr. Ferrero. When I spoke to him, he said that was the furthest thing from the truth, because they're already down men, and they're going to lose 2 more in April. And there's a deadline to look at, and time is a factor. Once again, to bolster Mike's point, Mr. LeMountain wants to go into the highway department. He ran for the office So he's always shown commitment to community. He's shown commitment to the highway department. He does have 30 years experience, and we're under a time constraint. The other point is my office dictates that I have continuity of governance, and if I wait until we lose a man on the 10th and a man on the 15th in the highway department has no leadership and 5 guys, you tell me what happens when we get an April snowstorm on the 23rd of April, which has happened before. You tell me how that functions and how that makes the town safer.
Well, when I spoke to Mr. Ferrero, he said he was willing to stay on as long as he needed to help this town out, and that was including also if he has surgery, so.
We should just, and Cliff just wanted this out as well, we can talk about people being out, we probably should not talk about why.
Correct.
It's an HR, no. So someone will be out, that's all you need to say. You shouldn't be diving into the personal aspects of why. Nor
Excuse me.
should you be diving into the personal conversations you've had with the men in their conversations. Okay? I don't think it's
Can you
appropriate.
speak up a little bit, hon?
I don't think it's appropriate to discuss the conversations that he's had on the side
Personal lives of
with men. And it's not appropriate to discuss what I would consider an HR matter, such as why someone is going to be out of work. We just need to make sure that that is not done.
There's a bit of a balance here, right? They're talking about making an
Yeah.
appointment, and there are certain things you want to be able to,
Yeah.
you want to be able to explain your rationale, but
There's a level of
there's a
professionalism.
line we don't want to go over, and so we're just trying to.
No, that's fair and respectful.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Note that. Just in terms of interviews, I did hear the reference that say you could have 2-person interviews. I would offer that I do think the board could go into an executive session and conduct interviews as well. And so, however you want to proceed, I'm not suggesting you need to do that or should do that, but to the extent that's something you feel is appropriate, I think you could schedule a meeting, go into an executive session to talk to each candidate. It's really a personnel matter. You don't necessarily want to conduct those types of activities in public because that would allow, one to see the other's interview and so I think that would be an appropriate topic for an executive session.
Appreciate that. So again, the resolution as it was presented was blank. Mr. Donnelly basically amended the resolution to put up Mr. LaMountain. And I'm not saying that I'm against Mr. LaMountain. I'm not saying, I'm just saying that we as a board haven't done our due diligence, I don't think. Now, I know that time is of the essence, but I also have faith, that Mr. Williams, if that's the route that we decided to go, who has actively plowed this entire winter so far, that if we got a snowstorm and Mr. Ferrero, was not present, I think, the employees currently know what their job is. And, it's not like they would be running the garage themselves. We as a board, Mr. Donnelly as the supervisor, certainly has, the ability to, step in, if Mr. Ferrero wasn't available as the deputy. But currently, as it stands right now, we have a deputy highway superintendent, and he is fully functioning. So,
How would I step in? At the highway department? I don't understand what you're saying.
no, I mean, if the deputy was out,
Yeah.
I think you have some sort of role. I mean, I might be wrong, but you as
Right.
the supervisor of the town, if the deputy, if we have a vacant spot for the superintendent and the deputy is out,
Michael had actually put together a list of the highway superintendent's duties or responsibilities that would fall to the deputy when there is no highway superintendent. I think that a supervisor of a town could exercise some supervisory responsibility, if need be, over employees, just based on his or her role as supervisor. There are certain functions that can only be performed by a highway superintendent or a deputy. And so if there's a risk that you currently have a vacancy in the highway superintendent position, if there's a risk that there's going to be a vacancy effectively in the deputy position for an extended period of time, that would be something that I would encourage you to address.
That means you plow the roads.
No, I'm not saying that.
Powell Hill, send them on Powell Hill.
And support the staff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have to.
Okay, yeah, I just want to make it clear that my office is looking at, supporting the highway department as much as it possibly can before such time as they're down to 5 guys. Okay, so moving forward, if we're gonna have executive session tonight, I suggest that we talk about it there. And possibly, what is it? So we're discussing the possibility of doing this on March 26th.
That would be it.
And then whomever goes in has 10 days to learn all the administrative work.
Well, as I stated, when I spoke with Mr. Ferraro, he made it very clear that he would still be willing to help out. So I don't think whoever steps in is going to be left high and dry. And we also have current employees that, as was just stated, they work there and they know what to do. So even if the worst case scenario, we went a month without a highway superintendent, I still think the men are qualified that work there to keep things functioning. So I don't think this is as dire. I do think that we have time to go into executive session, make decisions, talk, and come back on the 26th. I mean, if anyone feels it's more dire, we can always hold a special meeting and appoint it if need be.
How many employees do we have in the town,
The town highway?
the highway?
Let's see, there's
John.
Chris, Al, Harry, Brian, John,
Aye.
Danny, but he's a mechanic.
Mr. Williams, do you know you work in the department?
There's two.
There's 7.
You say 6 or 7? Don't do it. Don't do it. I see enough. Don't do it.
All day.
But that includes a
All day.
mechanic, so 6.
Yeah, but the mechanic does go out snow plowing as well.
Yeah, and the small truck in the village. Yeah.
So that would be down to 4 then, with those 2 people out.
I wouldn't necessarily say that Mike is gonna be out. I agree with Trish. Yes, he will be out, but he will be available.
He made that very clear to me when I spoke to him, so I was comfortable.
I don't wanna get into his personal life, but I
Right.
don't think he's necessarily gonna be out.
Yeah, regardless of whatever the reason is.
And he's aware of the roles and responsibilities as a deputy and, you know.
I mean, and let's face it, when Dan Baker was on, he was an elected official. I mean, we've all learned elected officials can show up 1 day a week and work, or no days, or 5 days. So then there's that. Like, it doesn't mean, as an elected official, that you have to be there 40 hours. So there's something to be said for that too. It can go for a period of time being overseen by the people that are there, by yourself.
I think Mr. Baker was there more than 1 day a week.
I most certainly know he was. I think he was very dedicated. But my point is, this is not a position that is Monday through Friday clocking it, and we're coming out of the snow season. Yes, we could have a major storm, but we're on the end of it. It's not like this is January and we have to deal with all of January, February dealing with salt and plowing. And I think if we can work together and be honest, and we can do this.
My office has also stated to me and to John that any questions for billing and vouchers, we are more than happy to help and assist with that, because we know there's a learning curve.
So I think as a town, we can work together to get through this. Thank you.
You're saying that they don't have to be there, the 40 hours?
Elected officials do not. That's anywhere, whether it's president, governor.
So we're paying him for nothing? I mean, if he's not there, what's he doing?
No, because there's busy seasons, there's slow seasons. Sometimes they're probably working 70 hours in a week and they don't get paid.
But what I'm saying is, if he's not at the garage, what's he doing that we're paying him for?
No, he is at the garage. That was using that as an example. Mr. Donnelly is an elected official. He does not have to work 40 hours. Some weeks he's probably there more. Some weeks he doesn't have to be, because as an elected official, I put time in on weekends. I imagine he puts time in on weekends. So there's no dictated schedule as far as being there Monday through Friday, 40 hours or whatever. That is in the role of an elected official.
We don't accrue sick time or vacation time. Like my office has to be open. I necessarily could never be there as long as Cheryl was there. But that's how
They're not suggesting
parameters,
right,
yeah.
that's what anyone is doing or that's
Yeah.
what anyone should do, but they're simply characterizing the state of New York state law, which is many of these public officials, and it's not just limited to elected officials, but many public officials can't be, I mean, they, you know,
They don't punch a clock.
you don't punch a clock. And so if they don't show up and actually perform at some point, there's a process where I think you actually have to go to the Appellate Division 3rd Department to try and have them removed, but it's not,
So you could have a no-show job.
there's a risk, I mean, under state law, there's a risk.
Wow.
You know, I don't
Crazy.
think, it doesn't happen, but I think that's what she's referring to.
Right.
But we've gotten off topic.
Yeah, and just to move forward, I would like to say that I think that this gamble is unnecessary, that to wait and continue and hope that it doesn't snow and think that 4 or 5 guys will pull together and somehow run a department sounds unreasonable to me. You're gambling with the town, you're gambling with their health and safety, you're gambling with the town, the community's health and safety, and I just think it's not worth the risk. I hope you're right and it doesn't snow and no one dies and everything is fine and there's not a snowstorm where people, that Mike told me that in his department, already call him.
Are we going to put this for a vote or are we going to go to the next resolution?
Already call him and say, where are you? The guys are overworked, just like the guys at the sewer system.
If you want to put this
And
to a
these are
vote, go for it.
conditions.
It doesn't have a second, I can't go to a vote.
I don't think it's no, I mean, I think
not
it's
really a-
moved to go to.
Well,
a
we
vote.
can see, everyone can see where it's gonna go. So if it needs further discussion, I just want you to know, Councilperson Grogan, that this is a decision that you're making.
I haven't made a decision. I'm having a
The
discussion.
board is making.
Not this board member. This board member thinks that a department needs experienced leader to lead them, and that's why I read this resolution. That's why I recommend George Mountain. That's my position. If you want to table this and talk about it in executive session, we can certainly do that.
Well, I think again, with a 4-person board, it gets tough in these situations. So we can probably already tell the temperature of the board. I guess we're gonna have to table it, talk about it in the back, and if we do decide to, again, post it, officially, like Ms. Grogan said, then I just hope we do it quickly, and maybe we can have a special meeting if we come up with a decision of a certain qualified person, rather than wait 2 full more weeks for the next board meeting. So if we can, at all costs, we should be diligent about being quick with this.
Yeah, I mean, Ms. Grogan already did the homework. I mean, all you gotta do is copy and paste and, change the names of the town and everything else. I mean, the work as far as posting it is done. It's just waiting the time period of what we decide as what that time period should be. But as far as, Mr. Donnelly could go tomorrow and he could post it tomorrow with the information that Ms. Grogan provided.
All right, let's,
I would just note, it's my understanding the board's going to have an executive session to discuss contractual negotiations. If you also discuss this topic, it's really in the nature of a personnel issue. At some point, when you're deciding what you're actually going to do, you'll have to come out in public and explain that to the public, which sounds like that won't be tonight. But so, to the extent it's discussed in executive session, it's really as a personnel matter where they're talking about specific individuals
Right.
and issues that are appropriate for executive session.
yes.
We'll make sure they state that.
Are you excusing yourself?
So I appreciate
Thank you.
your considerations.
Thank you.
Okay, you're in good hands.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna also table this road study.
Yeah. Mr. Schmidt, do you want to take the next one?
I, Councilmember Schmidt, offer the following resolution and move its adoption. Whereas the United States Department of Agriculture, USDA, has awarded a community project funding grant, in the amount of $500,000 to offset the expenses related to the town of Queens wastewater project Phase 1, the project. And whereas the town board of the town of Queens previously retained LaBerge Engineering and Consulting Group Limited, LaBerge, to provide grant administration services to the town. And whereas by resolution number 043-25, the town board of the town of Queens previously authorized the town supervisor to sign LaBerge addendum number 2025012-00 to approve LaBerge's original proposal to bill $10,000 in connection with the administration of the grant. And whereas additional administration work not originally accounted for was required in connection with the grant, including to access funds to repair, replace the existing sewer pump station, the additional work. And whereas the town has now received a proposal from LaBerge dated March 3rd, 2026, the addenda, to represent the additional work. And whereas LaBerge proposes to bill an additional amount not to exceed $10,000 for addendum number 2025012-01 for a total amount of $20,000 in connection with administration of the grant. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Queens does hereby authorize Supervisor Stephen Donnelly to sign the addenda provided by LaBerge.
Second discussion?
So for discussion, I'm not quite clear why repair, replace the existing sewer pump stations is now considered additional work. From my understanding, this whole project resolved around, especially the $500,000 USDA grant, was the sewer pumps. So why is LaBerge now saying that this is additional work that they didn't consider when they had originally said $10,000?
Because if you remember, a few months back, they did, this is what Keith was talking about, they did have to do grant administration. That's why instead of $500,000 in there, it's 440 in order to order the emergency pumps at the time when Keith said these are going. So we got that, it was a 12-week lead time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why that happened, so that we could have the pumps here as soon as possible. And they administrated that amount of money from the $500,000.
But they knew, I guess this is the part that I'm trying to figure out, is they kind of knew the situation that we were in with the pump stations. So, and there was talk, I think, with LaBerge here, a representative from LaBerge here, where we asked them, if there's an actual emergency, can we purchase the pumps with our own money? Right? Do you remember that conversation?
Yeah, that's why they did the work to pull that, I think, $60,000 out.
That was at the joint conference, I believe, that pump was approved with the village, I believe.
That was the
That's what you're
generator.
Okay, thank you.
So again, maybe my timing is just off a little bit, but in my mind, I feel like LaBerge knew the situation, but you're telling me that because they had to do that work to pull the money as an emergency, that's what generated this additional $10,000 bill?
That's my understanding of it is, but I could certainly email Ben and Scott to clarify it for you further tomorrow.
The contract addendum says USDA community grant application post-award program delivery and grant administration services and USDA community grant program closeout procedures pending project completion. So to me, the closeout procedures, how can that be an addendum? Why isn't that included in the original $10,000 quote? They'd have to close out the grant administration process whether they had to do the additional work or not, right? So maybe this language, this contract addendum language, just doesn't correlate with what they actually did to request an additional $10,000.
Okay. Well, their explanation to me was that it was for what I described earlier, for the emergency pumps and the computer panel.
Yeah.
I had briefly spoken to Scott Siegel last week, and Scott had told me that the town entered into that first addendum for 10,000. At the time, it wasn't necessarily foreseen that the 60,000 would have to be pulled out, and they put in additional work to pull that 60,000 out without presenting a new addendum back then. So what Scott basically told me was between January and March of last year, you had exceeded the $10,000 already based on their hourly rate. So from March of last year to today, you've essentially gotten a pretty good deal. And they're just looking to sort of replenish their addendum, their billing retainer, sort of, with this second addendum.
So they didn't budget accordingly then, from the onset of the project?
Unforeseen.
I'm not sure.
I don't know that that was unforeseen.
But furthermore, they didn't disclose this to us when they sat here and gave us the whole spiel and presentation until after we passed and approved doing all of this work that we're doing with the USDA grant.
I mean, I understand, they weren't planning on pulling the $60,000, right? And that probably cost some administrative work, but it was out of necessity. Keith had told them, we really need these or else the pump stations are going to go down. So I understand there's some legwork and there's some extra, administrative tasks when it comes to that. So I guess I get what they're saying, but I also agree too. It's sort of, a little bit of a shock when you see it.
Especially when they sat here and said they were sitting here free, no charge, they weren't charging us. Well, that $10,000 charge is coming now.
Yeah, but these pumps were purchased, these pumps were purchased last year, right? I mean,
They were purchased in 2024.
2024.
Or 2025, I'm sorry. But again, I have to, I'm not buying this explanation.
Can we look back in the minutes? I wasn't a part, so but can we look back in the minutes and see what the conversations around this then were?
Would recommend finding the first addendum for the first $10,000 and check the language and see if it's contradicting to anything in your second addendum.
Okay.
Yeah, I say we table this and just double check, just to make sure that we're doing our due diligence with the different addendums and the money going out.
So because I presented the resolution, we should probably make a formal motion.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to table the resolution regarding contract addendum number 2025012-01 so that we can obtain further information and we can compare it to the original contract.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I, Councilmember Grogan, offer the following resolution and move its adoption. Whereas the town of Queens, the town is desirous of submitting FY 2027 congressionally directed spending, CDS, and community project funding, CPF, request applications to Senator Schumer, Senator Gillibrand, and/or Congressman Tonko for the FY fiscal year 2027 federal budget earmark appropriations to support the town of Queens wastewater treatment plant improvement project, the project. And whereas the town has previously retained LaBerge Engineering and Consulting Group, LTD LaBerge, to provide grant development services to the town, and whereas the town has received a proposal dated March 5th, 2026 from LaBerge, the addenda, to implement the project, and whereas the LaBerge proposes to bill a fee for addendum number 2026032-00 in the amount of $3,000 and no dollars, $3,000 per project, or $6,000 and no dollars for the same project if submitted to more than one representative. Now therefore it be resolved that the town board of the town of Queens does hereby authorize Supervisor Stephen Donnelly to sign the addenda provided by LaBerge to allow LaBerge to perform grant development services in connection with the project for an amount not to exceed $6,000.
I'll second that for discussion. So the way it was explained and the way that I understand it, and Mr. Donnelly could probably speak to this as well, is the $500,000 that the previous board had obtained, the USDA grant. You sort of all of these Senator Schumer, Gillibrand, Congressman Tonko, they have to put in requests to the federal budget of like what towns and municipalities want to do and how much money they need and for what projects. And this is going to assist us in having the Verge sort of send out and sort of proctor these grants, this money to these people so that they can put forth our information and try to get us, some kind of reimbursement or not reimbursement, some kind of, fiscal money from the federal government in the future, hopefully next year. And
Yeah.
I probably didn't explain that well enough, so you probably
Well,
filled the
yeah,
blank.
so when the senators and congressmen go down to, you have to have a project, and we do have a project, because we already spent money on the preliminary engineering report. So Old Burge was able to get information off of that in order to send with the Congress. First of all, Congressman Tonko and Senators Gillibrand and Schumer collect projects from across wherever their districts are, and whichever ones that they seem worthy enough to go down and see if they can get federal funding for, they do. That's what happened with the USDA grant. That's how we got that $500,000. We got letters of support from various other representatives that surround us essentially, and that strengthens the case. So on the strength of that, hopefully our representatives pick our project and take it to Washington to see if they can get it in the federal budget. And this is phase 2 project that we're looking at in the wastewater treatment plant. So the majority of this money is going to be paid by the village. I think we're at 70-30.
So my question with regards to this resolution and the contract is, so it's $3,000 for one, or $6,000 if more than one is done. One, how much more work is there to complete the initial application between each senator? Like, is this a situation where the engineer, kind of gathers the information, submits the application, and then it's pretty straightforward after that?
It's very broad. Just to get it to go down for congressional spending, it's a pretty broad application. In the 6,000, it references the representatives. So
Yeah.
2 for Schumer, 2 for Gillibrand, 2 for Tonko. Those are the applications that Scott's filling out.
And has he completed the one for Congressman Tonko?
Yes, yeah.
Because that was due March 9th.
Right.
Okay.
And Gillibrand and Schumer, I believe, deadline's tomorrow. So they have the 7 letters of support that we collected. So it's looking pretty good. Hopefully we can get some funding for this project. And of course the village is on board because they don't want to continue to pay, for instance, for the generator, 75 at the time of what was that, $70,000?
At least, yeah.
So they absolutely want to get funding for this project as much as we do.
So, and just for the public, we just approved the process for phase 1. This would be for phase 2.
Yep. Inside the gate.
Yeah.
And every year around this time period is when these applications open up for each of these senators and Congress people.
When I was looking at the website, is it $5 million? Is that the number?
There's no
The max?
numbers right
No,
now,
okay.
but Scott had, Mr. Siegel told me that due to the size of the project, it wouldn't be, once again, we don't know what the numbers are coming out of the federal budget, but it wouldn't be inappropriate to ask for $5 million.
Yeah, I remember I was looking at Tonko's, website, and he had all like the different towns listed of, town of whatever, and they got this much money for this project, and they vary. 500,000. I think I got $5 million for one was for $5 million somewhere. So it's just I think it's a small price to pay essentially for hopefully a big outcome, right? I mean, we had $500,000, awarded to us last year, so hopefully we have that, and hopefully a lot more, depending upon letters of support that help us and these people pushing for our projects.
And New York State as a whole is trying to push a program. So they have the program CHIPS for the highway. They're trying to put forth a program now for wastewater treatments for all municipalities and towns. So if they can get there, we'll see more money.
Yeah.
So,
I saw that.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Upcoming meetings, we have PBZBA at 7 o'clock, that's March 19th, and our next meeting is the 26th at 6.
While you're on that,
Yeah.
our first meeting in April, not the workshop, but the first regular meeting, we've already had emails from 2 council people saying that they won't be here. So we will not have a quorum. So we have to decide,
April 9th.
yeah. So we have to decide now whether we're going to reschedule it, whether we're going to cancel it.
I can do, I mean, if you want to have it that same week. Sorry, when did you say you were gone, Trish?
I'm gone,
The workshop
ninth?
that week too.
yeah, we have a workshop. The workshop, it would be on the 7th.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it sounds crazy. Do we just
Have
do
a
our meeting on the 7th with the combined workshop?
Are you
And
available on the 7th?
yeah, I don't leave till the 9th.
Right.
I don't know.
Okay.
I leave sometime on the 7th. I was thinking it'd probably be before 6 o'clock.
Friday night.
Yeah, but we have 3, so, you know, you can run a meeting. I'll double check, but if you want to make it for the 7th, I mean, I was going to say, I'm free the 6th.
I was just gonna say, we have to post that we're changing the town meeting anyway.
Right.
So can we all make the 6th, which is a Monday, and combine the 2, so we're not doing a meeting on the 7th also, and just do,
And could we just call it a meeting and not a workshop? I mean,
Yeah,
it's not an
Yeah.
issue.
you would do April 6th as, and April 23rd as a regular meeting.
Correct.
Correct.
All right, so would someone like to make a motion to do that?
Yeah,
wait a minute, back up. When is our break? Because you're leaving on Tuesday.
our break is the 6th through the 10th, right?
Yeah, no, I can't do that, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Yeah,
You're
I'm
leaving
sorry.
on the 9th. How are you doing?
I'm not leaving on the 9th. No, I'm leaving Good Friday, the 3rd. Yeah, so I'm sorry about that. And when are you back?
No, my wife usually tells me when I'm gone.
So, yeah, no, I wouldn't be able to do either of those meetings that week. I have myself going out of town a week ahead of time.
I mean, I'm almost positive I'll be here the 6th.
I cannot be.
So either we have a 3-member or we can figure out something, so we have a 4-member board.
Up to you guys. You do it the 6th, or we call it for the following week, the 13th or 14th. Totally up to you.
Mr. Stott, if you can verify tomorrow. that
Yeah,
you can
I'll
attend
see her
on the
tonight,
6th,
yeah.
And everyone else is okay with that.
Yeah.
If you agree via email, I can post the
Post it.
notice.
Okay, let's just
Yeah.
do that.
All right.
Thank you.
Make sure you get hold of me. We're aiming for the 6th.
Possibly.
Tentatively.
I will not be here on the 6th.
Public comment time. If anyone has anything they would like to share with us, please step up to the lectern.
Before we start public comment, another email that went out. We need to tighten up our public comment. Our public comments go 10, 15, 20 minutes sometimes. We have guidelines. I don't know if this board needs to start reading these guidelines. I did send a suggestion to this whole board. Nobody responded. But we need to clean them up. I only speak on behalf of chairing board meetings myself. There's a time limit for a reason. Public comment period is usually for items that are on the agenda, and I believe in our organizational meeting, the rules that we approved states that we're not towing the line on anything. We're not controlling anything. We're not bringing people in. So that's something. And for this meeting, I don't say enforce it now,
Right.
but we either need to come up with new rules and guidelines for our public comment period, So just putting that out there.
So if I have a problem that I wanted to bring up, but it's not on the agenda, I can't bring it up?
So in my email that I proposed was in the beginning of our meeting, maybe we have a 2-minute public comment for non-agenda related items, because to dismiss the public and not allow them to speak for something that may not be on the, is not fair. So in my email was maybe we do 2 minutes in the beginning of the meeting for non-related agenda items. And then at the end, whether the board decides the 4 minutes or 3 minutes for related. So it gives everyone in the public a fair chance to speak. But, you know, sometimes you have 10 people here that want to speak, and you can't have 10 people going off for, 15, 20 minutes. So we really need to strictly adhere to it and just set guidelines and go forward.
I think the 5 minutes probably is good, but I kind of disagree with you on, not on the agenda.
Well, that's why we would do it in the beginning of the meeting.
I don't even think that's a good idea, in my opinion.
Or you could
We'll
just
talk about
yell
it.
out from there.
Thank you.
Suggest this, this isn't, I apologize, because I am going to be more than 5 minutes. But part of it is stuff that I think that you said should be on old business. But in Bethlehem, they have 5 minutes and they count. And it is in the beginning of the meeting, so if you have something to say, you don't have to sit through a 3-hour meeting to say something that you really have to say. And they can say whatever. I mean, they've had people say, accuse people, town board members, supervisor, the police chief of things that are incorrect. They have the right to say what they want to say for 5 minutes. They are not interrupted, and then it's done. It's not a comment. It's not back and forth. It's a comment. If it's not on the agenda, it shouldn't be discussed. You go on and on because it's not on the agenda. It's just a comment, 5 minutes, but that's how they do it there. Just a suggestion. And it is in the beginning. I like that. So, okay, I'm starting now. Time. And like I said, I apologize if it is over 5 minutes. I wanted to read a letter that I wrote to you all just to be on the record. After reviewing the recent town board meeting, I believe it is important to respectfully correct the record and clarify several points. I also respectfully request that this letter be entered into the official minutes acknowledged at the next town board meeting, which is tonight. And this was last Friday, or Friday before last, after the town board meeting. First, I want to address the statements and implications regarding my husband, Mark Dorsey. Mark has dedicated his entire life to service. He has served in both the United States Air Force and the United States Army and is a decorated NCO. He has been a firefighter, an EMT, and a police officer. He was actually a police officer at town of Queens many years ago. And I just found out he had 2 awards in Queens for 2 reversals, bringing 2 people back to life. And he's worked for New York State Task Force 2, Department of Homeland Security. He used to get deployed all over the country. And he's the type of person that when 9/11 happened, and it was not part of his job, it was part of his duty as American, he went down there as an EMT and dug through rubble, searching for bodies. In addition, he's been a member of the operating engineers and for over 30 years, spending many of his years as a crane operator and receiving extensive construction and infrastructure training throughout his career. His professional background includes significant experience in construction safety, heavy equipment operations, structural work. His life work has been centered around protecting, building, and serving his community. To hear suggestions that he is violent or that town officials feel unsafe in meetings with him is deeply disheartening. Mark has never threatened anyone that I know of, nor has he engaged in any physical aggression at any meeting. He does speak loudly, in part due to complete hearing loss in one ear, sustained during his military service. He is passionate and direct. He is not a polished politician, and anyone would agree with that. He can be rough around the edges and speaks his mind plainly, sometimes regardless of how it may come across, but his candor comes from conviction, not aggression. He feels strongly that he's protecting his rights, his property, and his family. That passion should not be mistaken for violence. Going forward, I will serve as the primary point of communication. This is not because I believe there is any legitimate safety concern, but because I want to ensure that communication remains clear, professional, and free from further mischaracterization. Turning to the building permit issue. The building permit application that was presented to us for signature was already completed by the town attorney and the code enforcer, or I think it was the town attorney. The first page of the application clearly states that it's to be filled out and signed by the applicant or owner. While I was initially prepared to sign it, upon review, determined that it was not appropriate to sign an application that we did not complete ourselves. It is reasonable for an owner to complete and certify their own permit application. We did not request the town attorney to prepare the permit application on our behalf. Communications with the town attorney began seemingly on behalf of the code enforcement officer. We did not reach out to him privately or request that he become involved. We have had no discussions with him outside of public meetings. Additionally, Mark, when he submitted his 7th or 8th building permit application to the building department, he voluntarily asked the Queens police officer to accompany him solely to ensure that there would be no misunderstanding or mischaracterization of his conduct. Given the recent references to safety concern, he believed that it would be prudent to have a neutral third party present so that the interaction would remain professional and clearly documented. That step was taken out of an abundance of caution, not confrontation. The permit most recently submitted was nearly identical to the version prepared by the town attorney, with the exception that it was completed by ourselves, in accordance with the instructions stating that the application is to be filled out and signed by the owner. We respectfully believe that this application satisfies the stated requirements and should be processed accordingly. We have provided multiple documentation well beyond what's typically required for a standard building permit in an effort to ensure transparency. It is stated that approximately $6,000 in legal fees have incurred in connection with this matter. We agree. That is significant expenditure of public funds. However, we have not retained the town attorney for our benefit. From our perspective, the town's preparation of a building permit on behalf of that was not requested and did not resolve the matter. We're simply asking for our submitted application to be processed and acted upon. We remain concerned about the inconsistent classification of the structure at various points. And I'm going to go on. I'm not going to keep going on because I talk about this in my next little blurb, but I just wanted to, because I am going to say something else, because I did get a building permit today, this morning, and I appreciate that. So to shorten it up, I'm just going to start something else. So I'd like to say thank you to the building department for finally issuing our building permit this morning and for lifting the stop work order that's been placed on our property for almost 15 months. We do appreciate being able to move forward with the maintenance and repairs on the Morton building. However, along with the permit, I also received a letter stating that the building department does not recognize the building as commercial, and that may only be used as an agricultural building. I do respectfully question how the town can disregard information that has been presented from its own records. This Morton building was previously classified in the town in 1993 as a commercial structure. It was part of an equine veterinary hospital and commercial horse boarding facility that operated on the property. In addition, only 1 year prior to our purchase of this property, in the town's own 2021 comprehensive plan, the land use map identifies this parcel as commercial land use. And we've been paying on this property commercial taxes and utilities for as long as I've been there, and I think since 1993, since they erected that structure. This property has always been both agriculture and commercial in nature. Since purchasing the property, we have continued to operate it as a commercial horse boarding facility. While approximately 20 stalls were removed from the Morton building during the renovations, the property still contains 30 horse stalls located in multiple barns, a riding arena, 3 large run-in sheds, and numerous large fenced-in paddocks. This property we purchased specifically as an existing equine facility, and it continues to function as such today. The purchase itself was completed through a 1031 exchange, which is a federal process that applies to commercial and investment properties. Completing that exchange required the involvement of both a commercial real estate attorney and a 1031 exchange attorney. It was an extensive and highly regulated process. So while we're thankful to finally receive our building permit and have the stop work order lifted, we do believe that the commercial history and nature of this property should be recognized as part of the conversation moving forward. If that recognition is not possible under the current interpretation of the building department, we are prepared to move forward with a use variance application. However, I do want to be clear that this would not be because we agree that the use is not permitted, but rather that it would simply be a way to move the process forward in light of the building department's refusal to recognize the commercial history and character of this property. With that said, I would like to briefly explain why we believe what we are proposing on our farm is consistent with the town's own planning documents and New York State's agricultural law. First, I want to start with the comprehensive plan and zoning framework. In the RA district, so you guys were just talking about the RA district and what's allowed and what's not. The RA district, according to the town's planning and documents, and I have to say, I know more about Queens than I do Bethlehem. I've read the 2021 comprehensive plan amendment like twice, the 2006 comprehensive plan, and the 2007 economic development plan. I know more about Queens than I do Bethlehem. So in the RA district, allowed principal uses are general farming, riding academies, recreational facilities, cultural facilities, educational facilities, day camps, community buildings, parks and playgrounds, libraries, places of worship, and schools. These are all listed as principal permitted uses, not special uses. Many of these uses inherently involve people gathering. For example, places of worship involve assemblies, schools involve assemblies, community buildings host gatherings, recreational facilities assemble people for gathering, riding academies host events and clinics, day camps involve groups and children and families. So if assemblies were truly prohibited in this district, many of the uses already listed as permitted could not legally function. Our proposal simply involves agritourism and farm diversification, which fits within several permitted categories. And we did speak with Mr. Kehoe in the very beginning, January 2025. I found it on my calendar. Mark I think I spoke to him, not Mark. Second, I would like to reference the Town of Queens 2006 plan. So this is 20 years ago. The town specifically states that the town should encourage the development of recreational facilities, which is allowed in the RA district, for the enjoyment of the town's residents and visitors. It even lists examples: miniature golf parks, batting cages, gaming arcades, skating rinks, movie theaters. These uses involve large gatherings of people and visitors coming to the community. Our proposal is a farm-based agritourism use, which is actually far more consistent with the rural character of Queens than many of the other recreational uses listed in the plan. I'm almost done. Okay, third, the town's 2007 economic development plan. So agritourism is not new to Queens because in 2007, almost 20 years ago, it specifically encourages heritage tourism and agritourism. It lists 5 different times agritourism in the 2007 economic plan. That plan states that the town should promote agritourism and develop opportunities for visitors to experience agriculture, including visits to local farms, and it clearly said, and horse farms. Our farm is exactly the type of agricultural destination described in that plan. Fourth, the 2021 Comprehensive Plan update states that 2006 Comprehensive Plan continues to guide the town and acknowledges that the zoning code has had minimal updates and needs to reflect the current needs of economic realities. Agritourism and farm diversification are now widely recognized as essential tools for farms to remain viable. Fifth, the comprehensive plan and land use map, like I said, identifies our parcel as commercial land use. Sixth, New York Town Law 263 states that zoning must be made in accordance with the comprehensive plan. The town of Queens adopted its comprehensive plan in 2006 and amended it in 2021, both of which promote tourism, agritourism, recreation, and economic development. However, the zoning code itself dates back to 1961, when it was originally created. That was the first time they didn't have zoning until like the late 50s, early 60s. They created it in 1961, and it was never really updated. It has not been meaningfully updated to reflect those policies. When zoning language is vague or undefined, New York courts have consistently held that it should be interpreted broadly and in favor of the property owner, not narrowly against them. Finally, I want to address the New York Ag and Markets Law, which applies because our farm is in the New York State Certified Ag District, and we do receive the exemption, and it's actively farmed. Under Ag and Markets Law 305A, municipalities may not enact or enforce local regulations that unreasonably restrict farm operations within agricultural districts. And under Ag and Markets Law 30111, The definition of a farm operation is commercial horse sporting operations. It's more than this, but I just took out what applied to us. Agricultural buildings and structures, agriculture education, farm marketing, and direct marketing activities. Modern farms across New York rely on agritourism and farm events and farm diversification as a form of direct marketing and diversification that helps sustain agricultural operations. Our farm includes commercial horse sporting operation, which specifically is recognized as agriculture under New York state law. So our position is simple. We are not asking the town to approve something that is inconsistent with its plans. We're asking to move forward with a farm-based use that aligns with the permitted uses in the RA district, the town's comprehensive plan, the town's economic development plan, and the land use designation of the property, and New York State's Ag and Markets Law. Agriculture, tourism, recreation, economic development working together is exactly what the town's planning documents envision. We respectfully ask that the town recognize what we are proposing to do is not contrary to Queeman's vision. It is consistent with it. Thank you. Sorry it took so long, I apologize.
Further comment? Excuse me.
Very short comment. Barbara Heinzen. As you know, I live on the boundary of Queens and New Baltimore. And 2 or 3 times a week, my neighbor Cynthia and myself, along with my dog, Maji, walk down the sewer treatment plant road. And if the gate is open, we go in. And it is one of the most beautiful sights in Queens. So I just wanted to find out if those of you who have not yet been to the sewer plant have had a chance to schedule a visit there, because you will find that the crew are absolutely wonderful, very welcoming. It's got the best view in town of the river that I know of. And they, along with I, am very grateful for your support in passing the bond issue last town meeting. My property is right opposite the sewer plant. I want this place to work. And I'm so glad you did the right thing. And I urge you to take a visit to one of the best places in town. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further public comment? Hearing none, I make a motion to go into executive session.
And that would be for negotiations and personnel matters.
I'll
And
second it.
no decisions will be made,
No decisions will be made.
and we will not be coming back out. No return.
Okay.
Will agree.
You second?
Aye.
I second.
Second, yep.
Oh, all in
Have
favor?
second.
Yep. All in
Aye.
favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
We're gonna stay out here.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I had to take time unpaid, which was fine. But what made me realize it was when I went into the 6th, I'm like, stay at Neapolipolis. The problem is